Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning. I hope we're all doing well. Jummah Mubarak. Happy Friday. We are coming to the end of our week, so today's class is going to be yin based. So if you practiced yin with me last week, yin is a slower, more nourishing practice where we hold poses for between like 2 to 5 minutes, but the maximum we'll be holding a pose today is 3 minutes. And yin basically allows us to tap into the connective tissue. So when we practice yoga, usually we're focusing mainly on the muscles and strengthening those, lengthening those, building flexibility. But one of the main issues that people will find with their flexibility and their mobility is the connective tissue, something called fascia. So I explained last week, it's like the white bit of an orange. So it's like a tissue that basically connects all of our muscles, organs, joints, bones. It's in between everything. So when that moves freely, we have more mobility. Tight fascia can lead to lots of mobility problems, stuck emotions, just feeling kind of trapped emotionally and physically. So yin helps us open everything up. It helps make things more mobile. And it's just a really good way of practicing yoga when you feel a little bit more tired or you just need to slow down. On the other hand, if you're someone who likes heavy workouts, you like to sweat, you like things to be fast, yin might feel very confronting for you. I personally didn't like yin when I first started practicing yoga because I used exercise as a way to almost punish my body. So yin, which is the opposite, it's nourishing, it's calming, it's treating yourself with softness and kindness. That can feel quite intense if you're not used to that. So throughout today's class, the main focus is going to be on awareness. The theme of today's yin class is aparigraha, which is a Sanskrit term for non-attachment. So it's a very important concept in yoga, very important concept in Islam as well. So throughout today's class, we're going to be working on non-attachment. So non-attachment to the shape that we're making, if it doesn't look like how you were picturing it to look like, non-attachment to how things feel. So if you physically can't do a pose today that you normally can, we're not going to judge, we're not going to be attached to it. And just treating ourselves with more kindness. So I want to start today's class. I've got some props here today. So we've got a blanket, some blocks, and a bolster. You can also use a cushion. You can use books. Basically anything you have that will comfortably bring parts of your body to the floor or bring the floor to you. So it just makes things a little bit easier to hold for longer periods of time because you're not just using gravity, you have the support. So you're free to not use props, but I would suggest just try even with a blanket or a cushion. It makes it that little bit nicer. So we're going to start today's practice on our backs with something, preferably something under our chest. So we're going to line it up with the spine, recline backwards onto it. Your head can either be on whatever you're lying on, or it can be hanging down if you want a bit more of a neck stretch. But don't make it so that your neck is under strain. We want you to be comfortable here. So just reclining onto whatever we have. You could just be down on the mat. That's absolutely fine. And then letting the arms hang down by the sides. You can extend the legs out in front of you for a little bit more of a stretch of the front body, or you can keep them bent. And we're just going to start by tuning into the body, connecting to the breath, and releasing the heart space open. So we're opening up that chest space. And this is really important for our physical and mental openness. So to start the class today, I want to share with you an Islamic quote that says, "Water in the boat is the ruin of the boat, but water under the boat is its support." And I like to think about this in terms of attachment to the dunya. So in today's class, we're thinking about ways in which we can detach from this world, from the worldly life, in a way that benefits us, the people in our lives. So we're in this reclined position on top of a cushion. Legs could be extended, legs could be bent. And just taking a big deep inhale, bring the arms up overhead. You can either straighten them out with the hands next to each other, or you can interlace the fingers, push the palms away, and then bring it over. And this one's a little bit more intense on the chest. And we're just going to release the hands, push the hands away from you. We're really stretching through the shoulders. And taking some nice, big, deep breaths here. So we're thinking about things that we have formed attachments to in this world. So that could be your relationships with other people. It could be material things, the things that you have in your life, your car, your house. You could also be attached to outcomes if you're someone who stresses about the future. And just using this class today to release all of those attachments. You might have come to class today with an idea of how you're going to feel at the end. So releasing expectations, releasing attachments. Taking some nice, big, deep cleansing breaths now. So elongating your inhales, elongating your exhales. And with each exhale, think about something that you would like to release with today's class. Something that you want to detach from today. Some nice long inhales. And exhale. And then slowly coming up to a seated position. We're going to bring this cushion, blanket, whatever you have. You can use a rolled up blanket like this. But we're going to come into our child's pose, but we're going to lie on top of something. So taking your knees as wide as your mat or just a little bit wider than your hips. Your big toes have come to touch. And then we're going to bring a cushion in between our thighs and lie down on top of it. So we're coming into this, it's called supported child's pose. So we're going to start with 1.5 minutes lying on our left side of our face. And then after 1.5 minutes, we will switch over onto the right side of our face. So this is releasing the neck, releasing the shoulders, lengthening all across the back. This is really good for your lower back muscles. Closing down the eyes if you can, just trying to turn inwards as much as possible, really listening to the sensations of the body. And as we breathe here, trying to breathe into the back of our ribs. So try and feel yourself expand outwards from the back rather than just breathing into the front of the body. We're creating space wherever we can. Really allow yourself to surrender to the gravity. And then inhaling to lift the head, and we're going to turn to face the other side and release your face back down. If the mind starts to wander, that's okay. We just bring it back to the breath every time. We're not judging what comes up. We're not criticizing. We're just noticing. And then on your next inhale, we're going to walk the hands back to the body. You can remove this blanket or pillow, but we're going to put it into a different position. So we're going to roll it to the front of the mat, and then we're going to come onto our stomachs, and we're going to use this to push our chest up. So you can either have this under your hips to push your chest up, or you can have it a little bit further forward, just in front of the bottom of your ribs. So the bottom of your ribs are resting on here. And then we're going to extend the arms out in front. We're grounding down through all of the palm, all of the fingers, and then pull that chest through. So we're going to be here for about 3 minutes, and this is why I suggested having a pillow underneath, because you can really let your chest sink into gravity and feel yourself opening all across the back, the muscles next to the spine, and all across the front of the chest. So you can use your hands to help broaden across your collarbones, keeping yourself nice and strong as we stay up. And try and make sure we're not just sinking down to the ground. Keep your chest nice and proud. Keep your hip bones pressing down into the mat as much as you can. We're trying to keep this more of an active position. So active is when we have our muscles engaged. Passive is when we kind of just sink into our flexibility. So this is more of an active pose when we're using our arms to really push the ground away from us. And making sure to continuously come back to that breath. We're not judging how this pose looks, how it feels. We're not attached to really bending through our back and making it look all pretty. We're attached to how it feels. Good. And then we're going to push ourselves back up onto our knees. And now we're going to come into a position called half frog. This is quite an intense hip opener. So we're going to just see where our bodies are at. So coming onto your stomach with your legs out behind you, you're going to bend your right knee and bring it up so your knee is parallel to your hip. Bring the leg so your ankle is in line with your knee, and then flex that foot so it's pointing out to the side. And now from here, you're going to push that knee out towards the right and really try and open into this hip joint. So this is where we might need a cushion just to bring our upper body down. And we'll be here for about 1.5 minutes on each side. So really use gravity to push this hip down and just sink into the mat. This can be quite intense on the hips, so only go as deep as is necessary. You can have a blanket underneath here to keep this more propped up if you can't push it all the way down to the floor. But just finding yourself in this half frog position. You can bring your head all the way down and really relax yourself down to the mat, or you can stay up on your forearms and keep it a little bit more active. On your next inhale, start to walk the hands back towards the body and then really push yourself up. So we're in this cobra half frog position. You should feel this across all the front of your hips, really nice and opening. And then bring that right knee back in. We're going to come back to that just normal cobra position. And then we're bending the left leg, coming into the same pose on the other side. So your knee is in line with your heel. Your foot is flexed with the toes out to the other side of the room. And then you can either come down onto your stomach or onto your forearms as we really push your right hip into the mat. So we're not coming up onto the side like this. We're keeping the front of our hips pushed into the ground. And then just exhale to bring yourself down, or you can stay a little bit further up. Good. So on your next inhale, we're walking the hands back down towards your hips, and we're pushing ourselves back up into this cobra with our half frog. Really stretching through the front of the hips here. And now we're going to take a full frog. So I'll show you this from this direction. Now you might need to place something underneath the hips as you bring your knees out towards the side, and then you can come down. So we're gonna see how much flexibility we have, and we'll work from there. So this one, that position that our knees were in before, all the way out to the side, legs facing the back of the room, toes pointed out, and then we're going to come down onto our forearms. So this is quite an intense hip opener, which is why I would suggest having something for you to just lean on and just only take yourself down as far as your body allows. We're not forcing anything today. So releasing the chest down as much as you can. You should feel this as quite an intense hip opener in the middle of your thighs. But this is so great for mobility of the hips, especially as we get older. Our hips can really start to degenerate, especially as women. We lose a lot of collagen and connective tissue, and just strengthening the connective tissue of these joints will really help us into our old age. So as we feel the discomfort of this pose, we're just noticing it. We're realizing that we can deal with physical discomfort and that we can use our mind to help control it. So always coming back to the breath. And just noticing how your body relaxes as you lengthen those exhales. And seeing if you can maybe push your knees a little bit further out as we lower down. And then we're going to inhale to walk the hands back. Bring the big toes to touch, and then push your heels, your hips all the way back to your heels. And we'll come back onto our knees. So that one was very intense on the hips. We're going to take another hip opener now. So bringing the soles of the feet together, we're going to come into a bound angle. Now, this is another one that I would suggest just having something. You can have blocks, you can use books, you can use rolled up blankets, just to place under the knees as your hips open up to the side. As your knees lower, you can start to lower the prop. But just as we start to give yourself that little bit of support, something under the knees, keeping your spine nice and long. You can grab a hold of your feet or your ankles, or just rest your hands on your knees and just close down the eyes. We'll be in this one for about 3 minutes. So we're just connecting to our breath, taking an assessment of how the body feels. And you might notice that you can lower your props as time goes on, as your joints start to loosen. Just reminding ourselves that there's nothing we need to change about the way that our bodies are, the way that we move through this world. The only thing we can do is show up and try our best. But you'll be surprised in that most of the progress that you will see physically in yoga will only come once you release expectations with that progress. If you practice with the intention of achieving something physical, your practice won't have the right intention. Maybe seeing in this last minute if we can completely remove the props. Just taking our muscles, our joints right to the edge. That edge of discomfort where you know that you're making that progress, but you're not causing yourself any harm. Then we're going to take some folds over the leg. So we're going to extend the right leg out to the side. The left foot, the sole of the left foot is on the inside of your right thigh. And then you can bring a blanket, a cushion, something for you to lean on. Because the aim here is not to get yourself all the way down. The aim here is to gently release the back of the hamstring. So just something for you to rest your forearms, rest your head. You can even bring a block all the way up here and just rest your head on it like this. Anything just to bring the ground up to you. We're taking the path of least resistance today. So just releasing the torso over that thigh as much as you can. We're not being attached to the shape. We're not attached to how it looks. We just want the body to feel safe and comfortable. I would suggest the foot that's extended having the toes pointed up to the sky just to protect the hamstring on that leg. If the toes are pointed, you can cause a little bit more of a strain on the back of the leg. So having that foot flexed, it protects your sciatic nerve. So if you have lower back pain or sciatica, flexing the feet, pointing the toes up to the sky rather than pointing the toes down is going to protect the back of your leg a lot more. Okay, so we're going to inhale to walk our hands back up. We're going to switch sides. So bring your props onto the other side. Switch your legs. So the right foot is on the inside of the left leg now. Your props are next to your extended left leg. Your left toes are pointed up to the sky. I want you to try and turn your torso as much as you can. So you're facing over the left leg. And then we bring our upper body down. And come down nice and heavy. Always coming back to that breath. Letting the body sink into your props, sink into the mat. And then on your next inhale, walking the hands back up, coming all the way up to seated. And then extend the right leg out. So we're in this wide-legged seated fold this time. So bringing your props in the middle of your legs. We're going to walk the arms down and let the upper body hang heavy over this. So I still am not low enough for this to be comfortable. So I can bring up even more props, maybe my blocks, maybe another blanket, and then I can rest my head comfortably. So we're not forcing anything here. We're bringing the floor as high up as you need it to be so that you can relax into this posture. We're going to be here for about 3 minutes and it's quite intense on the inner thighs. So we're taking it gently, we're taking it slowly, and we're softening. We're letting ourselves soften into the props, into the floor. And then, like I said before, you'll notice as time passes, you can lower your props and come lower down. And we're using the breath, we're using the exhale to soften into those spaces. So as you inhale, you're creating the space. Exhale, you soften into it. Keeping the legs nice and strong here as well. The toes are pointed up to the sky and you're using the backs of your knees. You're keeping them nice and strong and pushed down into the floor. So we're not just letting the legs just hang here for no reason. They're engaged. They're staying nice and strong. Last few seconds in this posture, maybe taking the prop away, maybe seeing if we can get a little bit further down, but also maybe not. Inhaling to come back up to your seated position. So we're going to remove the props and then taking your hands underneath your knees, cupping them under, and then purling your knees up. We'll come into this position with our feet on the floor. Hands come behind you, and we're just going to knock them both to the right and then to the left. Just get some movement into these big muscles that we've just been stretching for a very long time. So just taking you through the final few postures. We're going to come into a supported bridge. I'm going to show you this with a block, just in case you do have one. You can also use a cushion in the same place, a rolled up blanket. Anything that just slightly elevates your hips is going to help release the connective tissue. So it doesn't have to be as high as this, but I'll show you what you can do if you have a block. So we're going to place it. You kind of have to play around with it. So you lower yourself down. And then you have to place it so the bottom of it is flat. And you can kind of start to lift your feet up and it's going to stay there, okay? So you don't have to do this with a block. This is probably the most intense version of it. You can also just do this with a cushion. But I want something elevating your hips so that when your knees are bent here, you can kind of just release your arms, release your hips, and just let gravity take you. Now, if you are in a position where your knees are bent and you don't feel as much of a stretch, you can maybe extend the right leg. See how that feels on the front of that hip here. And then if it feels good, you can extend the left leg too. So you can see we're really opening across the front of the body here. This is a gorgeous stretch. It feels so good at the end of a day when you've been sat hunched over a desk. It opens up everything on the front of the body. And we're just releasing ourselves to the mat here, becoming as heavy as possible. And remember, if you feel any discomfort, you can play about with the block. You can bring your legs back. You don't have to stay like this the entire time. We're not being attached to what it looks like. And with your hips slightly elevated, if you've got the legs straight, just bring the feet back with the knees bent. Make sure your block or your cushion, whatever it is nice and stable. And then you're going to bring your right knee in towards your chest. Just hold this here for a second. Squeeze that in, breathe in nicely. And then slowly come onto the tiptoes of that left leg. We're grounding down through the hands. And then lift the left knee. So we've got our knees bent into our chest, but we're kind of elevated as well. So this is a slight inversion. And then we're going to come into our full inversion. So from here, exhale and extend the legs all the way up. So you're pushing your heels up to the sky here. I've showed you this posture before where your entire back is on the floor. And it's absolutely fine. It has the exact same benefits. But this is just if you were already elevated, you can come up like this. You can also do this against a wall with your legs against the wall. But we're just coming into this posture for the last few minutes. So really releasing your legs to gravity, feeling the sensations of the blood start to come out of the legs and in towards the torso as it warms up. And then you can just keep yourself in this position. If you would like to come down, just bend the knees, bring your left foot down, then your right. Slowly remove the block, the cushion, the blanket, whatever was under there. Come down. So you can either stay with your legs up, or you can bring both legs down. Let the feet fall out to the side, let the hands fall out to the side. A nice, big, deep cleansing breath as we come into our final resting pose, Shavasana. So as we come to the end of the practice, allowing our bodies to come back to their natural state. Thinking about how attached we've been to this practice. And just reminding ourselves that by letting go of what no longer serves us, we create space for happiness, for contentment with our lives, for clarity, for self-discovery. And in Islam, there's 3 levels to this detachment. There's the actively trying and aspiring to be detached, which most of us are. There's the natural dislike for material possessions and awareness that it's all temporary, which most of us are on the cusp of, especially as Muslims. And then there's the final level of detachment, which is indifference. And inshallah, that's the goal. To be a part of the world without it becoming a part of us. And while you're in this final resting pose, I just wanted to share a story about Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, when she was once given thousands of coins. And throughout the day, she gave the entire sum to charity, mashallah. Her servant asked her why she didn't keep at least 1 coin so that they could buy food to break their fast, because they had been fasting. And her reply was, if only you reminded me, I would have kept it. And this story has such a strong moral meaning to me in terms of her indifference, because she neither scolds the servant for desiring the worldly things, nor keeping the wealth for herself. And this, to me, is the highest level, that indifference. So thinking about how we can take this into our daily lives, being grateful for what we have whilst not being attached to it. So just bringing some movement back into your fingers, back into your toes. You can bring your knees in towards your chest, give yourself a nice big squeeze. Maybe rocking from side to side, gently massaging the lower back. And then in your own time, coming up to a comfortable seated position. And when we arrive, just placing one hand on the stomach, one hand on the heart. We'll take some nice deep cleansing breaths to end the practice. As you take your deep exhale out of your mouth, think about what you want to let go of attachment towards today. So nice big inhale. Sigh out. One more. And last one, what we want to detach from today. Inhaling. And releasing. So just reading a Quran verse for you guys as we go on to our Fridays. That one we did yesterday. Okay, this one. Perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. Allah knows while you know not. So this verse nudges us to think about the unexpected, the things we might not like at first glance. Sometimes we might dislike, what we might dislike might turn out to be blessing, and what we love might have hidden challenges. So thinking about this in terms of our attachment to things, just because we love something doesn't mean it's good for us, and detaching from these things can bring us blessings that we couldn't even imagine. So I hope you enjoyed today's class. I hope you feel nice and nourished, nice and open. Tomorrow, inshallah, I will be back at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. GMT. And we will take you through a nice 30-minute mindful movement session, just going over all of the concepts we talked about this week and focusing on our behavior and our treatment of other people. So inshallah, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've had a good week of classes. And yeah, I will see you next week for a new theme, inshallah. Have a good weekend and take care. Assalamu alaikum.